Good evening and welcome to HBCU Delaware Talks. Thank you for tuning in this evening, and I thank you for another year. This is my second year of the show, and I thank God for allowing us to be here. I thank God for allowing us to be a vehicle in the community of Wilmington, in the city or in the Newcastle County area, and the state of Delaware to talk about historically black colleges and universities. One of the reasons as to why this show is here is because we would like to promote the historically black colleges and universities in our community in light of all the crime. Some of our kids, they do not even talk about college. They tend to talk about survival. And if they knew about it, one way to survive is by getting an education. So education is key to success because their lack of skills can kill and will. And if you haven't been seeing that in the community, you really have been sleeping under a rock. So we're here this evening just to talk to you about the HBCU schools, how they originated. In fact, how did the HBCU schools originate? On my panel, I have Pastor Aaron Moore, I have Minister Rachel Livingston, and I have Pastor Sean Ricks to sit here and talk about how the college life has impacted their lives and just really to send a message of hope to our community, because right now it seems like there's a lot of hopelessness going on, and we really need to come together as colleges, as churches, and make this unit. Of course, Spartans unite, so that we can all unite and become as one, so that we can really have one entity and work on the same idea, the same goal, so we can impact our community, and instead of it being, or instead of a lot of turmoil going on, so to speak. So, welcome to the show. How are you? Howard University, Norfolk State University. Pastor Moore.
Yes, sir.
How are you?
I'm doing great. And first, let me congratulate you on one successful year of programming and spreading the word, the education of our, not only African Americans, but all people, yes. and really supporting the historically black colleges and universities. I think that's really important. Being a graduate of Howard University, I realized that if it were not for that education, there were many doors in my life that would not have been opened. Mm-hmm. And not only that, it was the quality of the education that I received while at Howard that really impacted my life and allowed me to see the world from a different perspective. And so I am so grateful for that education. And again, congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And I understand that Howard University is the mecca of black education. I'm not sure, but
yes,
this
is
what.
You don't have to question that.
So, Rachel, can you expound or tell me more about the Howard University and how it has impacted your life and your career as to what you're doing today?
I think one of the things that Howard did for me specifically was that it helped me find a better sense of self. I think I knew certain things about myself. I knew that I loved being black, but I didn't really know how to articulate it or even completely understand it. And Howard kind of let me understand what it means to be black, what it means to love my blackness, to love my Africanity, to love where I come from. And I think I was joking with someone today where I was saying, you know, Howard was the place where you can be any kind of black you want to be. And I mean, we have our preppy black, we have our pro-African black, we have our, you know, I mean, any kind of black you want to be is there. And it was just a place where I could learn exactly who I was and exactly who I wanted to be. And it really kind of got me involved with social justice and things like that. So now I work with an organization called Delaware Repeal, and we're trying to end the death penalty, but really kind of that thirst for striving towards justice was founded at my growing up at Howard University. And I don't think I could have understood that had I not been at Howard University.
I understand that you said the death penalty, the reappeal, or can you explain to me what is the reappeal? What is that all about? Because I'm sure the viewing audience, sometimes we use the language, but sometimes they really don't understand what that is all about. Can you pretty much explain to me?
The word repeal generally means to kind of get rid of the law that's currently in place. So right now we have the death penalty in Delaware, where people can receive the death penalty if they've killed someone. Mm-hmm. However, we're working to repeal that or take away that law so that it is no longer able for someone to receive the death penalty. So essentially what the bill does, or what the bill that we're looking at does, gives people it takes away the death penalty with replacing it with life without parole as the alternative. So death penalty would be completely off the table.
Awesome. And at Howard University, when you were at Howard University, were you thinking about going into the career that you're doing right now regarding the repeal?
I don't think it was as clear as I'm going to work on ending the death penalty. But I think one of the things that happened was my freshman year, I went to New Orleans for alternative spring break, and just engaging with that community on the issues of cleanup, but also engaging in the political issues that were happening in terms of people being removed from their homes and things like that, kind of just drew me in. And one of the things that people don't know is that they kind of, that year that we went in 2007, they praised Georgetown for sending like 50 students, but we sent 500 down to New Orleans, and awesome. That wasn't publicized, but we like to, put people on blast and say, oh, Georgetown did a great thing, but Howard was never recognized for sending 500 people down there. But that was kind of part of my nurturing, in terms of, I want to see justice, and I don't care if I get acknowledgement for it or not. I just really want to see justice done. And kind of as I matriculated through, kind of felt the yearning to, one, go to seminary, but also work in the community and work on justice issues.
Awesome, and it's out. The conversation's there. So now we have to respond to the conversation. I understand there's a walk. Pastor Brooks, if you could talk to me a little bit about it. On October 10th, 2015, something's going on in Washington, D.C. Is it important that historically black colleges and the churches join in to support their goal? So what do you think about that?
It's very important, because at one time the two entities were synonymous, historically black colleges and the church, because the majority of the historically black colleges were founded by churches and sponsored by churches and financed through churches, because at that time, we didn't have a place where we could be educated. So a lot of our churches undergirded educational institutions so that they could produce doctors and lawyers and teachers and social activists. And so we wanted an education, and we wanted a place where we could be nurtured, where we could feel like home, and where we could have not only a quality education, but the care that they put in education. That's one thing I always spoke about Norfolk State. I didn't feel like just a social security number. I know they actually cared. I was talking to a younger person in my office today, and I said, we couldn't even wear hats in our buildings. Anytime we walked in, we were mandated as men to remove your cap, showing the little stuff like that. Nowadays, you'll see guys, they'll have their hats on, and the clothing that they wear, the style that they wear, and no one makes them stand up and pay attention. So it was more than just the experience of higher education. It was all the culture that came along with going to an HBCU. And so it's very important. You can't take one out with the other, the church and the HBCU. And that's why it's so important. We're celebrating 80 years of being a university this year, Norfolk State University. We're right now today, We're sponsoring 36 hours of financial giving back to the school. We have a mandate to raise as much capital as we can so that we can continue to offer scholarships, continue to be that institution of higher learning where you can have the alternative. There's nothing wrong with the PWCs, which we know we call them predominantly white colleges. There's nothing wrong with that education, but we should know that there is just as an equal great education in our HBCUs that are offered today.
Oh, yeah, I was, in fact, I had a meeting with my principal today at school, and I was talking about a series that I'm working on, and it's called Let's Talk College. And I'm talking about 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. We need to begin to talk college to them, and I realize in a lot of the school districts, they may talk a little bit about historically black colleges and universities, but it's just a little bit. And when we talk about historically black college and the foundation, the kids tend to hear it, but we need a lot more people to really begin to start supporting. In fact, we need to go back as far as elementary school,
Right.
really to talk, let's talk college. Because I mean, even kids that have IEPs or special ed, they can go to college. And it is a mindset.
Certainly.
You know, when we have labels, it seems like we take and live those labels, you know, and we shouldn't have to live the label, you know. Actually, we should change the label, you know, and just begin to talk college, to begin to talk positive, because believe it or not, it's a mindset. And if we begin to change that mindset, which is more, if we talk about the city of Wilmington, there's a fixed mindset in a reactive city. And we really need to grow our mindset with a growth mindset and become proactive.
Right.
Because, can you add to that?
Well, yeah, I'd like to speak to
Pastor
that
Moore.
because it's interesting. I was in a conversation just the other day with a gentleman who was speaking down on education. He said, well, I know people who have a college degree and they're working at McDonald's. And I know people who have college degrees and they are not working in the area of their major or whatever. And I said, you know, I hear that conversation a lot. And I don't like that conversation because it doesn't support our children getting an education. And he kept talking, well, you know, that. So I just finally said, and I didn't want to say it, but I had to say it at the end of the conversation. I said that usually the only people who speak against education are those who don't have one.
There you go.
I have found that our children that are raised in homes where the parents, or at least one of the parents has a college degree, that child is more likely to go to college
Yeah.
than if he were raised in a home where both parents don't have a college degree. I think once you get a degree, you realize how important it is, and you push it. I push it from the pulpit.
Certainly.
I do, because that's how important it is to me. And I know that we as a people, in order for us to survive and not just exist,
Right.
is that we must get an education.
Pastor, it's one of the most dangerous weapons in our society today. An educated black man is a dangerous weapon. An educated woman is a dangerous weapon. We could combat violence. We could combat poverty. We can create our own jobs. We can create our own wealth streams if we have an education. And I admonish you for the conversation you're having, because we have to let them know that Florida A&M produces the top talented people in the country. Florida A&M. North Carolina A&T is one of the most accredited engineering schools on the East Coast. Norfolk State University just received a multi-million-dollar grant for cybersecurity. This is taking us into the next millennium. I mean, Vice President Joe Biden went there and gave them somewhere along the line of $120 million just to train because of their technology program. So we have to let them know, not only thinking about college, but when we talk specifically to historically black colleges and universities, you're not just going to get an education. You're going to get an education that allows you to compete with anybody in any career field in the world. Look at all the Morehouse preachers and pastors. Look at Howard, Virginia Union. I mean, one of the greatest seminaries all up and down there is in Virginia Union. So we got to promote that. We got to tell them, though. They don't know because the guidance counselors won't tell them, you know.
You're right, and we really do need to talk spiritual with the guidance council. I mean, you don't have to go in there and say, well, I'm a man of God, but you know, it shows in your character.
Certainly.
What I'd like to see happen, because actually I founded an organization which is Historically Black Colleges and Universities, Delaware Coalition, so it's HBCU Delaware Coalition Incorporated. And one of my goals, or one of the goals, is to